Business Banter Plus TV is a division of True Social Media. Hi there, it's Elaine Lindsay of True Social Media and the host of Business Banter Plus TV. It's great to see you this Friday afternoon, and I am here with my lovely guest, Melody Fletcher. Hello.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you here. Melody, I have such a lot to say about Melody. We could be here for like the whole half hour, me telling you stuff, but we actually want to hear her speak, so I'll try and make it kind of quick. She's a law of attraction expert. She's a best-selling author. She does spiritual growth, personal development, and is an expert in all of those areas. She's half German, half American, and has dual citizenship, which I think is very cool. She said it makes her a super organized cheerleader. We'll have to talk about that. She spent a month in the Peruvian rainforest, and I believe she's told me that Peru is really important to her. She worked there with a shaman, so we'll talk about that one as well. She recently moved back to America from Barcelona, Spain, where she spent 13 years. Wow, that sounds ever so cool. She's been on a mission of enlightenment since she was a teenager, and her favorite teachers and books are Abraham Hicks, the Seth books by Jane Roberts, Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, anything by Eckhart Tolle, and Oren books by Sanaya Roman, is it?
Roman, yeah.
Roman. Okay, I'm not all that familiar.
I think.
Last one. Her coaching sessions and what she does is actually a form of channeling. And during that, she says she's completely aware. So she is able to enter an altered state. And she prefers to call it, I love this, translating energy. It sounds a little less woo-woo. Some of us like the woo-woo, some of us love it, but don't want to call it woo-woo. So that's a good thing. And this one is what blew my mind in all of this. Melody was a dealer in Las Vegas for almost 5 years. Okay, she's got some amazing stories, but no, she's not going to teach you how to beat the house. She posts a lot of cat pictures, but she's a dog person. Go figure. She says puppies are her crack. I'm so with you there. Her street name is Melody, and she's a hugger. Now, that's a pretty cool setup for someone that I'm really excited to interview.
Oh, thank you so much, Elaine. It's great to be here.
Oh, lovely to have you. On that note, Miss Puppies Are Crack, do you have a puppy?
I do not. And it's mostly because I love dogs, above almost humans, really, even though I love humans. But my lifestyle, isn't really conducive to having a puppy at the moment. It wouldn't be fair to the dog, is what I'm saying. I travel a lot. And, as you said, I recently moved from Barcelona. I had a small apartment in the middle of the city. And I love all dogs equally. But when I get my dog, it's not going to be a Chihuahua. It's going to be a bigger dog. So I'm waiting for the time to be right, and then my dog will find me, because I've been working on that since I was about 2. So that manifestation will come in perfect timing. But right now it looks like my travel is actually going to ramp up, and that, until I'm in private jet stage,
all right,
the dog's not coming with me. So
you'll have to get
we got to wait for that
permanent dog sitter that can go with
you. But there's no point in having a dog if you hardly ever see them.
No. But once you have the jet, it'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is, of course, what Melody is absolutely stunning at, and that's the law of attraction. I love the fact that you are the deliberate blog. I really, really like that, because it super resonated with me the very first time I saw anything of yours, which is quite a while ago now. So what I'd like you to maybe give people a little view into what your feelings are about the law of attraction and how you got there.
Okay, well, the law of attraction for me is just a part of what I talk about, even though it's, you know, the thing that people are most familiar with. But for me, reality is a type of technology. I'm a bit of a geek, you know, and put everything into those terms. So for me, it's a type of technology, and the law of attraction is a part of that technology. So it's the, you know, part of the mechanism of how we actually create, or in my verbiage, receive our reality. So it's a little bit like saying, you know, I want to talk to you about computer programming, and I have to explain to you what a CPU is. It's not all about the CPU, but the CPU is a really important part of your computer, you know, central processing unit, for those people who don't know what that is. Sorry. So I came to it. I'd always been interested and drawn to sort of the metaphysical stuff. And, you know, back in the day, I'm going to age myself a little bit here, but when I was a teenager, you know, there was no internet, kids, back in the day. And so when you wanted to look something up, you had to go to the library, the bookstores. And I don't know if you remember, Elaine, but the, you know, in that time, the metaphysical books were not out in the front of the store in the open. They certainly weren't the biggest section of the store. They were back, and they might as well have been porn. You know, they were in the shameful corner. And there was like books on Satanism, and then books on channeling, and then books on energy. And then, you know, that was all lumped together because it was all weird and the devil. And so as a teenager, you know, and you're so self-conscious anyway, going back there and finding the books, and you feel like you're almost doing something wrong. But I always sought out those books, and I always, you know, kind of read up on them and researched quite a bit, and grew up Catholic, and like Catholic as in nuns and Catholic school and girls Catholic school, you know, and so I kind of had to get away from that for a while, and became an atheist for a few years as a teenager, and then realized that that didn't really stick either. That wasn't satisfying. And so I just kept searching and searching. And over the years, I always went back to those books. I always built my library. I would go through these intense periods of research. So fast forward to about 6 years ago, when I was in the corporate world, and, you know, I'd had many, many different careers. It was my fourth career. This is my fifth one, all preparing me for what I'm doing right now, actually. And I was in the corporate world, and I had to lay off a lot of people. I was not in a good place. That was very difficult for me. People that I had personally hired and trained and mentored. And they're all way better off now, by the way. So it's all good. But I sat at home, and I was having a really hard time with this. And so I kind of went back to my, you know, to my books, and just kind of sat there and recovered from the corporate world, corporate rehab, you know. And I remember I was sitting there, and I was sort of half listening to a meditation tape, and was making all this space, though, was actually giving myself time and space to listen to this inner voice that had been trying to come out and talk to me all my life. And I'd been so often way too busy to hear it, because I'd been a total workaholic, you know. And suddenly it was like somebody pulled back the curtain, and I was able to see how everything works. And one of my gifts, we all have our gifts, and we all have our geniuses. And one of my gifts is that I have the ability to see very complex things and break them down in a really simple way, and then teach that to other people. This made me very successful in the corporate world as well, because I was able to, back in that day, I called it dumbing it down for the executives. But, I'm not so judgmental anymore. Yeah, but it's always been something that served me very well. And I, you know, didn't even realize it was a gift for a long time, to take things that are very, very complex, but see the simplicity and the simpleness in those complex processes, you know. And so for me, it's the equivalent of, I don't have to explain to you how a car works and how to build a car, but I can teach you how to drive one.
Yeah.
You know, and so to me, this is all a type of technology, like I said, and it was the first of what you might call many moments of awakening. When I came into an awareness, and then I got really excited and wanted to, you know, share this stuff. But my intuition said, go to Peru. So I went to the jungle of Peru, and I worked with a shaman there for a month. And I still go back to Peru every year. I work with a different shaman now. And for those who are interested, by the way, I have a video interview on my YouTube channel with my shaman that people can check out if they're more interested in that topic. And I go to Peru and I participate in ayahuasca and San Pedro ceremonies. And it's actually a big part of my life. I still do that once a year. It's sort of my big spiritual holiday. So then I came back from that and I started my website and, started coaching a while later, and wanted to my main motivation at that point was just to share. That's still my motivation, was just to share what I had discovered to help maybe people take a big chunk of their learning curve off, so they wouldn't have to go through, as many years as I did searching, and to be a part of people's path. And I still feel very, very privileged to be a part of people's journey. And, I always say it's the best job in the world. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's a massive adventure.
Oh, there's nothing like adventure, and there's nothing better than being able to serve others and love what you do.
Yeah, it's the best. Everyone should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. It makes you want to get out of bed in the morning. It makes a big difference for a lot of people. So in terms of what your coaching holds for people, do you have a specific process you work through, or something that your go-to startup with all of your clients?
Well, I do have a process, which wasn't, I didn't know it was a process until I wrote a book.
Yeah.
And the process came out. And so that's my deliberate receiving process, if you need to put a name on it,
Yes.
Which of course we want to. And so get the book, and it's all in there. And then I have, quite a few techniques that I don't really want to say I've developed, because they just sort of came through. And as you said, in my coaching, it is a type of channeling. Yeah. It is an energy translation. So I don't give myself credit for all the wisdom that comes through. I give myself credit for showing up and being the translator and being good at translating. I'll take credit for that. But what is coming through is actually someone's, higher self and their own wisdom. So when you're coaching with me, you're actually having a conversation with your own higher self, which is nothing that people can't do for themselves. They absolutely can, but sometimes it's easier to hear when it's coming through a snarky, shiny puppy.
I love that.
With a little sarcasm thrown in here and there, and maybe a occasional slap to the back of the head with love, and so that's, where do I start with people? Well, I start with where they are, and that's going to sound really like, well, duh, but it is quite different from many processes. I start with where you are, and I take you to where you want to go. And I'm a bridge builder. So I will start building a bridge from wherever you are. And that's a big distinction for spiritual teachers, because many spiritual teachers I found will not go to where you are. They'll call that, that's too negative, and you have to come to where I am. And I found that, and a few years ago, I would have said the same thing. I would have said, I will not lower my vibration, but I've realized it's not lowering my energy in any way to come to where you are. It's just finding a way of explaining it so that it starts to build a bridge from where you are to where you want to go. I don't actually change my energy. That wouldn't be beneficial for anybody. And so again, I find that that's my gift, and my willingness to do that. And it kind of sets me apart from people who just teach wherever they teach, and it's always on the same level. And that there's nothing wrong with that, but I find that I have more fun being able to deal with and cater to a larger variety of people. So if somebody is, having a real bad day and they're pissed off, that's okay. We can still deal with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, yeah, and it is a part of life and who we are. We have all of those emotions, and, contrary to what some people believe, anger is actually really useful.
Oh, yes. It's an incredibly powerful healing emotion. And, I dedicate quite a bit of my book to anger and how to properly allow anger and the power of an anger release. And I spend a lot of my time talking about anger and coaching people into anger and into rage fantasies. And if done properly, it is unbelievably healing. And it is our misunderstanding of what anger is and how we treat anger and how afraid we are of anger that causes so many of the world's problems. So I love to have conversations about anger, and I want to foster more comment. Let's all talk more about anger so that we can learn to deal with it in a healthy way rather than suppressing it or running away from it or being afraid of it, because it is going to come out sooner or later. What most people think anger is actually years and decades and generations worth of repressed anger. That's what happens when you don't let anger out. Anger in its natural state really isn't scary at all.
No, and it was, my understanding is it's chaos energy, which allows for so much.
Well, the way I teach it, anger is the emotion that, if you're laying on the ground and you're in the fetal position and you've given up and you feel like life is beating up on you, it's the emotion that allows you to stand up and go, screw this, no more. I'm going through you, I'm going around you, but stops here. I'm not putting this up with this anymore. And the worthiness starts to come in. I'm worth more than this. Yeah. The hope starts to come in. There's got to be a better way. It's sort of, it takes you, when you've been taken to your breaking point, it's that big rush of emotion that gets you up and going, that is it. We're not doing this anymore. And it starts to pull you out of powerlessness. It's an incredibly empowering emotion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when utilized properly. I love what you said, and it really is different from so many that you basically put a hand out to wherever in order to build that bridge, and going to where people are and allowing them to start where they are, I think gives them a better foundation for where they're going.
Well, I think you have to, because, a lot of this work is about acceptance and surrender, which people, I give a lot of explanations about what that actually means, because usually people mean that, surrender to your situation, no matter how crappy it is, and just accept it and don't want any more. That's not what we're talking about, at all. But there is great value in accepting the fact that you are where you are right now. It might not be where you want to be, and it might not be where you want to stay, but that's where you got to start. Yeah. And I think not doing that, people have such a propensity to blame themselves and to feel badly about themselves. And if they think that where they're starting is wrong, and, because there's a lot of this sort of where you are is wrong and where I am is right. Yes. And give me some money and I'll show you how to get here. Yeah. And you're already starting on the wrong footing. For me, where you are is perfect. Yeah. Now, where do you want to go from there? Because, there's no point in saying, I don't want to be where I am. Well, but you are there. Yeah. Right now you are there. That's where you're starting from. And, and once you accept that, then you can start to take a step, forward and move out of that. And so there's great value in kind of, understanding that where you are is where you are, and where you are also has value, because you probably worked pretty hard to get to where you are right now. You went through a lot in your life to get to where you are right now. So let's not, discount all of that and dishonor all of that and say, well, everything that you've ever done is wrong, because obviously you're not in the right place right now. No, you are in the right place. You can't possibly be in the wrong place. And I know I'm skipping over some really big concepts here, but this is inherently present when you say, I'm going to come to where you are, and we're going to start where you are. There's an acceptance of that.
Yeah, that is, yes, we've kind of jumped over some huge concepts, but I think what's really important in what you said is the fact that accepting and acknowledging that where you are right this minute is perfect for you. It's how you can go somewhere else next is right. by being in it. I think that's, people have taken, mindfulness and living in the moment and turned it into all these other things when it really does just mean accepting right this minute everything about you, which is not as easy as we're making it sound.
Just accept yourself. Just love yourself. There you go. Run off. Yeah. But that, that is essentially, to me, you can be like a child and throw a tantrum and say, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. or you can say, okay, I am here, now what?
Yeah.
You know, and that is a choice. That is first and foremost a choice that you can make. And it's not always the easiest choice. I will totally admit that. Sometimes sticking your head in the sand is way easier. You know, sometimes drinking yourself into oblivion, or working until you can't think anymore, or watching a bunch of mindless TV until your brain fries is easier. I get that. But ultimately, nothing changes if you don't start making these choices. And when you get motivated enough to change something, here's a possible way.
And being in choice is the goal, right? Because you want to be in charge of you, and the only way to do that is always be in choice.
I mean, for me, my work is all about empowerment. Stepping into our power, you know, and when you realize that everything ultimately is a choice, your perspective is a choice, your identity is a choice, how you know, feel is a choice, how you react is a choice, and you can learn how to make those choices. So, you know, because right now I know it feels to many people, they're sitting there going, that's not a choice, that happens automatically, but it can become a choice. It is ultimately a result of choices that we do have control over. And your experience is a choice. And by an extension, your entire reality becomes a choice. And when you really start to get that, and it is an incremental process, but when you really start to get that, that's when you start to feel powerful beyond measure. That's when life gets really, really, really fun. Because it isn't just about, let me control my environment so that I can get rid of the pain. Most people think that that's the goal. Let me get rid of the pain and then I'll be good. But what they're not realizing is there's this whole other side of the spectrum. Getting to the place of no pain, if you look at a number line, is really just getting to the 0 point.
Yeah.
Then there's this whole other side of the spectrum where the awesomeness begins, and we forget about that because we've been trained to live in the painful side and to be motivated by trying to get away from the pain. We think if that can just stop, then I'll be happy. No, you might be content for a little while, and then you'll get really bored.
Yeah.
And then the boredom will become really painful. So you want to keep going to the awesomeness, the awesomeness, the awesomeness. Yeah. And that's when life isn't just no longer painful. Life becomes really, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we keep thinking that fun life is something other people have, but I have bills to pay. Yeah? But your own life can actually be really, really fun. And all it is, making it sound like it's nothing, it is actually a really big thing, but it can be broken down and understood intellectually. What it is essentially you start to, you know, approach your life in 180 degrees different from what you've been taught. That's all.
Yeah. Just that little thing.
Just 180 degrees different. Yeah. But the beautiful thing is that sounds really daunting, but it's something that people know inherently because they were trained out of this knowledge, and getting trained back into it is a lot easier than being trained out of it, because it's really kind of a process of remembering. It's like you have this inherent ability and you were trained to think you don't have it. And now you're remembering that you do have it. That remembering process is not nearly as difficult as what we went through as children, where they told us you're powerless, and we didn't want to believe it for a long time, and finally we did believe it, but it was so painful. This is actually not painful because you're coming back into your power, and you know, so it's a much easier process, and it's something that is fully supported by, you know, your own psychology, fully supported by your own innate knowledge, fully supported by however woo-woo you want to get, by the universe, by your guides, by the angels, by everything. It's, you know, for me, it's fully supported by our operating system. Yep. And so it's a much more, you know, it's a much easier process than it was to get trained out of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think part of that is when you get to the place, like your clients are coming to you and they're acknowledging that they have to start from there. Well, that's the first step in going forward. They've basically been in neutral for so long. You're taking them from wherever that may be, however bottom of the pit that might be, it's forward motion, which I think is a huge thing.
Well, the way that I really see it, and I'm not trying to be humble here or anything, but the way I see it is that process is already underway, and I just get to play with them and participate in that process. Because, you know, I can't manifest in your reality, and nobody can.
Yeah.
So, and this is an important message for healers to hear. You know, you're not responsible as a healer for picking somebody up and who is, you know, in total despair and is wailing on the ground and is doing nothing to help pick themselves up. You're not responsible for picking them up. That is an exercise in futility. Yeah. But when somebody is ready to get up, you can give them a hand. But if you don't, someone else will, because they're going to manifest the help that they're ready to get. They're going to manifest the clarity that they're ready to let in. So you're just volunteering and saying, I know it's going to happen anyway, but I would like it to be with me because this is fun for me. Yeah. And so that takes all the pressure off of the healer. You're not responsible for their healing. You're playing with them. You're participating. And it really is still about your experience. And from that place, you get to meet up with people who actually are going to benefit from your work together, rather than, you know, maybe attracting people into your life who just don't seem to get better and who suck all the energy out of you. Because when they're ready, they will manifest the person for them. And then that point, it might be you, it might be somebody else. Yeah. And so I, you know, practice what I preach. This is what I teach to healers as well. But it's absolutely how I see my work. I see it as, you know, playing with people, and I get, you know, phenomenal people coming into my life for me to play with. We have so much fun together. This is what I always say at the beginning of a coaching call with a new person is, you know, just relax because this is going to be fun. And it always is, you know, because why else do it if it's not going to be fun? Yeah. And people think, oh, this is going to be hard. We're going to work hard. Personal development is hard, you know? And even though they might have done a lot and they might be a little bit shell-shocked at the end of the hour, they always recognize that, and it was fun. Holy crap, this can actually be so much fun. And to me, it's like, if it's not fun, there's no point in doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, that's how I speak. That's how I write. That's how I do everything, because personal development, you know, just like everything else, should be fun. Life is about having fun. We're not here to do personal development. We're not here to work on ourselves. We're here to have adventure, to have fun. And that's something that we can do to help facilitate more fun, but it's not the point in life. So let's not get stuck in that. Yeah.
I think, and you know, I'm sure you can speak to this. I think quite often fear gets in the way of people who intrinsically understand that it should be fun. Like whatever you do should be fun.
And that it can be fun.
Yeah.
Fear is just you focusing, some part of you is focusing on the idea that it's not going to be fun at all. Yeah. That it's going to be painful, that it's going to be hard. And well, of course you're afraid of that. That makes total logical sense. Yeah. So it isn't the fact that you shouldn't be afraid. It's the fact that, what are you focusing on that's causing the fear? How are you viewing this? Yeah, because there's a part of you that's thinking this is going to be really, really ugly. And of course you shy away from that. So, but what about if it isn't? What about if it can be easy? What about if it can be fun? And often just that little bit of opening yourself up to the idea that, oh, this might not get ugly. This could be really awesome. Just dissipates the fear.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a huge difference. So if you have made a really good point about letting other healers know that, like, you're not responsible for other people's journeys. It's a hard thing for people to understand that, you know, that person's journey is not mine. It's not. I may feel terrible about what's happening, but, you know, I'm a little more esoteric too. I believe that that soul chose that path, and I have no right to judge whether or not that path is right for them or wrong. Only if someone reaches out and says, "Can I get a hand?" then absolutely you can pop in.
And is ready to let the hand in.
Yes.
Just because somebody is wailing at you to help them does not necessarily mean they're ready to let it in. No. And we've all had that experience.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But you know, for me, it's a video game. And it's a very important and awesome video game, but it's a video game. And if you're in the video game with another player and that player falls down into a pit and has to sit out around, or has to spend, you know, the next 3 levels climbing out of that pit, are you going to keep your character on the side of the pit? Are you going to jump in with them? Are you going to know that they're going to be fine?
Yeah.
You see? And, you know, and people hear that and sometimes they think, well, that sounds really cold and callous, Melody. Do you never help anybody? I help a lot of people. But when I'm inspired to, you see, when it's this playing together energy, rather than me jumping in the pit with them and now we're both in the pit and now we're both miserable, but at least you're not alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of lightening up about it, and also not being so arrogant. And I use the word arrogant on purpose because nobody wants to be arrogant. But saying, you know, I'm a more powerful creator than you. I'm better at this than you are. Something has gone wrong for you, and I know what's good for you, and so I have to now help you.
Yeah.
Really, you know, because that's a lot of arrogance right there. And what you're doing is you're diminishing their power when you do that, but at the same time, you're diminishing your own power, because we're either all powerful creators or we're not. And again, for me, this work is all about empowerment. So I know that, you know, some people in your audience might be sitting there thinking, but I don't know if I'm a powerful creator. Where is this coming from? Yeah. And, you know, then you have to make the decision. Do I think this person is less capable than me as a human being? That doesn't mean have they had the same chances. Go a little bit deeper than that. Yeah. Because obviously, if you look at it from that level, no, they haven't. Does it feel good to me to help them? Is there an energy flow happening? Am I being inspired to help them from a place of guilt because I think I have to, which nobody wants to be helped from that point of view. Oh, you poor thing. You can't help yourself. Yeah. And they'll take your money, but they will want to punch you in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good point.
Yeah. But if you're inspired to help somebody, you're giving them a gift, not because you need them to have it, but just because you're wanting to give it. And there is a big difference in that. And then you can actually, you know, experience a beautiful interaction with somebody, because somebody wanting to give you a gift from their heart just because they want to feels wonderful.
But there has to be that give and take. When they are able to receive, then that gift is right. I was once told that you know, when people are begging on the street, and if you go by and do just what you just said, oh, poor thing, you know, some man sitting on the sidewalk, and you give him money because you feel guilty that you have more or whatever, you have just disempowered him.
Yes.
And it's not your right. If you happen to be going down the street and the idea of giving just makes you giddy for whatever to whomever, absolutely give him the money and go on your merry way. There has to be like no strings attached.
No strings attached. It's the unconditional giving. And you know what? Unconditional giving is so much easier, because now you don't have to try to determine, is this person on drugs? Are they going to be using it for something good or something bad? That's not up to you anyway, by the way. Yeah. And so, because it's very disrespectful. How would you like it if your boss says, well, I'm only going to give you your paycheck if, you know, you promise to do what I think you should do with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift. No strings attached, no conditions attached. And if you don't feel good about it, then don't do it. Yeah. But understand this person will manifest whatever they're ready to manifest with or without you. So now it just comes down to, is it your joy to participate in their manifestation? And, you know, what you're going to find is if you really let go of all this responsibility and guilt, you're going to end up giving more. Because people are so afraid that they're going to turn into sociopaths who walk over bodies. That's not how that happens, by the way. Yeah. But who are going to walk over bodies and who are callous and walk by the homeless and go, oh, just, you know, get a job, or you create your own reality, ha, 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 and walk away. But that's not what happens. Yeah, because when you feel good, you naturally want to share. And when you're sharing from a good feeling place, you know, what it does to your energy, if you want to look at it from an energy point of view, energy just starts to flow. What it does psychologically is it frees you up to actually give unconditionally, give in a good feeling way. And we all want that. We all want to feel good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually end up giving more because, you know, the whole give out of guilt paradigm is drying up quick. And charities are figuring that out, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was always the marketing, the advertising angle was always to make you feel guilty.
Yeah.
You know, the TV spots and everything else to make you feel bad for what you have, or in some cases don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are charities. Everybody's realizing that that old paradigm doesn't work for anything.
No, because people don't want to feel guilty.
No.
You know, and so then they'd rather just shut you out and say, well, I don't want to deal with you anymore. And then they feel guilty about that, but, you know, less guilty than if they're looking at, you know, you're a bad person for having, you know, a television. You're a bad person for buying that pair of shoes. You should have just given that money to somebody who needs it more than you. And that doesn't, you know, people don't really, that doesn't foster a giving attitude. Why? Because what you're doing is you're shaming people. Again, you're saying where you are is not okay. Who you are is not okay. How you live your life is not okay. And, you know, I work with people who run charities and you know, environmentalists and people like this who go into companies and try to get people to be more green. And the first thing that we do is we turn their entire paradigm around from shaming the people that they're trying to get money from to honoring the people that they're trying to get money from and saying who you are is perfect, you know, but here are some things in a, you know, from your good feeling place that you might want to do. And let's find a way to make it all feel really, really good, you know. And I find it so interesting, just as an aside, a couple of years ago, I was talking to an environmentalist, somebody who does go into corporations and try to get them to be more green. And I said to her, you know, if you know, you have some guy and you're shaming him for having an SUV, and maybe that SUV is the only thing that gives him joy all day, and now you're trying to take that away from him and trying to get him into a little Prius, and so nothing against the Prius, but yeah, into some little, you know, powerless car, and this is his empowering moment in the day, he's going to tell you to go to heck. Yeah. But I said, somebody invent a powerful electric car, people will buy it in droves. And now Tesla has brought out an affordable car and the waiting list is massive. So I thought that was, I'm like, thank you, Tesla, you know, for doing that, because people want to feel good, but they want to feel good all around. They don't just want to feel good for doing good. They want to also have their powerful car, and they want to have their toys, and they want to enjoy themselves, and they want to feel empowered. So let them have all of it. And when you find a way to tap into that, yeah, then you can motivate people into charity and that sort of thing, because it feels good. And so when you look at it from the other side, allow yourself to be motivated in that fashion, rather than from a beating up on yourself, I'm not okay and I should be doing more, because that actually shuts you down, if you haven't noticed.
And sackcloth and ashes are no longer cool. For those of us with a parochial Catholic school background, everybody will understand that one. And for me, I want you to maybe explain intent.
Intent. So, well, intent is a choice. You know, it comes down to choices again. What do you intend? And for me, intent is, you know, starts with what it is that you want, which is a much bigger question than most people realize. You know, because it's one of the big questions that I ask. I think it's the most important question we can ever ask. What do I want? And when most people start asking that question, it takes quite some time for them to get out of the explanation and justification of what they don't want. Yeah. Because they've never actually considered what they want. Yeah. And it's that whole paradigm of trying to move away from something that they don't want and never even considering what they're moving towards. Yeah. And what you're moving towards is, well, I would recommend that you move towards what you want, which means that you have to first figure out what it is that you want. And once you have done that, then you can make the choice to two choices. One, to assume, to open yourself up with the assumption that it is actually possible to have it, and that you will settle for nothing less. You're not going to settle for mediocrity. You're going to go for the gold. And that is a powerful intent to set. If any of those elements are missing, it's not going to feel good. So if you're intending to move towards something that isn't really what you want, it's going to be very dissatisfying. You're chasing goals that are, it's never going to be enough, never going to be enough, never going to be enough. If you do not have the assumption that you can actually get what you want, it becomes a very painful exercise, because you want it and you're working so hard towards it, but you don't really think it's ever going to happen. And energetically speaking, that means that it's not going to come in. You're not going to be able to receive it. But when you create that sort of trifecta of figuring out what you actually really want, not what you think you should want, not what you think you have to get in order to get what you want, but what you actually want. And you open yourself up to the possibility that you can actually have it. And then you make the decision that you're not going to settle for less. That's a powerful intent.
That was so well said. Thank you so much. I just knew if I went there, you would just put the icing on the cake. That was so beautiful. Thank you so much. Those three parts are really important. Wow. God, I could talk to you all day long. Absolutely. You are an incredible guest. I will make sure that for everyone who's watching, the links for Melody Fletcher's site, Deliberate blog, and anything else that we have covered or talked about will be available on the page on Business Banter Plus, with all of Melody's information and the replay of this show. Also, the last thing I always like to do with my guests is ask you if you would mind leaving our audience with a little nugget, something they can do for themselves in their business and or personal life right away. A little something they could do.
Well, I think it's actually not a little something, but it is something that you can do, right now in the next minute or two. It is exactly what we just talked about with the intent. It is taking a moment, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, that you dedicate to yourself, and where you get still and you ask yourself this question: what do I want? And here's the hint. If it doesn't make you dance around the room, you don't have it yet. You need to go bigger. You need to go, maybe more general. You need to, you might think, well, what I want is a job that doesn't make me crazy. That's what you don't want. What do you want? I want a job that pays better than the one I have. Okay, you see? And then you might realize, but actually, I don't even want a job. I assume I have to have a job, but I don't really want a job. What I want is abundance. What I want is freedom. What I want is to spend lots of time with my family. But we often don't let ourselves have that because I don't know how that's going to come about, so I can't want that. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the secret. You can't not want it. All you can do is suppress the desire, and that's painful. So you might as well just admit what you really want.
Oh, that's so good. I think it will take people a couple of listens to realize just how deep that went. That was absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Melody. My guest today has been Melody Fletcher. I'm Elaine Lindsay of True Social Media, your host for Business Banter Plus TV. It was so great to be with Melody today and hear her amazing words of wisdom. You'll be able to get her information, her links, and all her social links as well at Business Banter Plus TV. Thanks again. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks when we're on with our next guest. Everybody, make it matter.
BBPTV is sponsored by True Social Media, TTLO Inc.,
the Start Something Show, and Business Success Cafe.